This concrete wielding head is called Conkeldurr, and he's made quite the name for himself in black and white OU over the last year or so. Formerly a fringe option within the tier, Conkeldurr is now considered a very common choice for hyper-offense teams, making successful appearances in Smogon Premier League, Monaz Black and White Invitational, and other tournaments of a decent standard. In SPL 16, Conkeldurr made 12 appearances throughout the course of the season, making it the 19th most used Pokemon in Black and White OU this year. This may not seem significant, but when compared to SPL 15 where Conkeldurr only featured twice, this is an insane increase in usage. To put this in perspective, Conkeldurr was used more than tier staples such as Politoed, Heatran, Volcarona, Thunderous Furion, and Scizor. Conkeldurr's always been experimented with throughout the history of Gen 5, multiple sets and structures that came and went in the last 10 plus years that the tier has been active. Devastating wall breaking sets such as Life Orb Sheer Force or Status Orb Guts could threaten to punch serious holes in opposing team structures. This is not to say the modern leftovers Bulk Up Guts sets did not exist back then, because they absolutely did, but the partners which drastically increased Conk's longevity in today's metagame were not utilised much, if at all. Talk about what changed specifically and where Conk fits in structure wise in a moment, but a brief overview of black and white player opinion on the general metagame is worth diving into first. On June 12, 2025, the Handsome Black and White Forum staff updated the OU Viability Rankings after receiving data from qualified players who have put up solid results in the tier over 2024 and the first half of 2025. Shoutouts my guy Monshu, who compiled the changes from the previous VR. It's obvious that there was a massive rise in the viability of hyper-offense Pokemon, with both Starmie and Dragonite shooting up significantly to sit within the top 10. HO's upwards trend was further cemented by the fall of sturdier Pokemon which tend to fit on fatter structures. Skarmory, Reuniclus, Gliscor are examples of this. However, this is not directly linked to Conkeldurr, although it is often paired with Volcarona, whose more recent Life Orb set has created a very hostile environment for this team style. It is also worth mentioning that other more recent trends such as Life Orb Alakazam has contributed to the decline in fat teams too. The very common trend of slapping a Life Orb on Zam and Volt could likely take some of the credit for the small decline in Rain as well, with the iconic duo of Politoed and Thunderous Furion also falling down the pecking order slightly. But if we go even further down, Conkeldurr went up 14 places to find itself within B+ tier. While this isn't situated at the peak of viability, it's a significant upgrade from its previous placement, which was 42, sitting within B- tier, but nowadays it shares company with Celebi, Jellicent and Kyurem Black, just to name a few. So, why are people using Conkeldurr at the moment? Conkeldurr is a very potent option for hyper offense teams against Sand, finding easy entry points against common choices like Tyranitar and Ferrothorn. Unlike Breloom, who is the premier choice on these Smurf-like styles previously, Conkeldurr has no fear of having to absorb status for his team. Not only is having a status absorb highly appreciated for the style of team, but since modern Conkeldurr almost always uses Guts, it becomes even more threatening. With regards to base stats, it has an insane attack stat of 140, alongside a very respectable 105 HP stat. 95 defense cannot be neglected either. Especially defensive spread is preferred. Ridiculously, this allows Conkeldurr to even live a spec slightly as Draco if careful nature. There's also a 6% chance for it to kill if Conk is adamant. The resulting payback deals tremendous damage to Laios, either killing it or putting it in range of Mach Punch depending on nature, field conditions and chip. Bulk Up allows Conk to boost its behemoth attacking stat and also leverage solid physical defences to become a tank, making him quite hard to remove from the field and very threatening. Switching into Conk can also be extremely risky as coverage can vary. Ice Punch into the ever-present Lando T-Enter in the field can be devastating. On payback sets, it's extremely common to use a minor speed nature with removed speed IVs to do more damage to Reuniclus, whose Psyshock is easily tanked anyway, but even more so after bulk up boosts. Payback also allows Conkeldurr to absorb Wisp from Jellicent and do massive amounts of damage in return. Mach Punch allows Conkeldurr to confirm kills on faster targets who can threaten to revenge it, such as Excadrill, Tyranitar, and anything that's been chipped previously in the game. Longevity is found in 3 places. Number 1, Leftovers, which mitigates sand damage. Number 2, Drain Punch, which is a stab of choice, providing solid damage and somewhat consistent recovery. The third, and arguably main source of longevity, is Healing Wish, often found in the form of Conkeldurr's favourite partner, Jirachi. Although Latias can feature too, it's quite common you'll see a Conkeldurr punching holes in a team for a while, claim a kill, soften up checks for its partners, and then flee the field before dying, only to be restored to full health in an endgame scenario to close things out. Not only does Jirachi provide the Healing Wish, but its typing has insane natural synergy with Conkeldurr, being able to swap into would-be psychic revenge killers like Alakazam and Latios, and U-turn as they leave the field, even allowing Conkeldurr to enter once again if they go to common Jirachi swaps like Excadrill and Rotom Wash. Most Conkeldurr structures usually look like the team I'm using on screen right now. Jirachi's mandatory in my opinion. Healing Wish is really what allows Conkeldurr to shine, but also the security against psychics is perfect. Starmie is the best and most consistent spinner within HO. The speed tier in conjunction with its coverage makes it a massive threat. Dragonite takes advantage of chip Conkeldurr accumulates throughout the game, especially on Landorus, who is sometimes one of Sand Balance's main way of checking Dragonite. Volcarona can take advantage of revenge kills on Conkeldurr, most commonly entering when Latios is at -2 post Draco Meteor. Garchomp and Terrakion are the most commonly used hazard setters for this type of team. Lando T is also a good option. All three are pretty solid for different reasons, it really would depend on what you are trying to cover in a matchup. Obviously, there are different Conkeldurr structures. I've tried different myself, even in SPL and things like that, a little bit unconventional, but if someone asked me to name a standard Conk team, this is the type of 6 that would be at the forefront of my mind. So what were the origins of these teams? Namely Conk paired with Healing Wish support. Well, it's time for an introduction. For those who don't follow Black, White or Smogon tournaments as a whole, Dark Evian is one of the most unique players on the entire website when it comes down to team choices. Using a generous term, his view of the game would be considered controversial. This is a guy who sometimes even refuses to bring Stealth Rock and can be seen running shit like Walrein, Omastar and other mons of that category. Haters can say what they want though, his claimed souls are some of the best players. The replay on your screen currently is from last year's SPL against See, even here, he's bringing things like Jolteon, which is uncommon, Blastoise still quite a fringe mon, Chomp might tell you otherwise, and of course, this is the game where Mixed Cloyster arrived on the SPL stage for the first time. Obviously it was experimented with before that, but this is the first time where it really hit the scene and made a major appearance and showcased the mixed set, which was kind of crazy. You're even going to see, Keldeo, which would have been a normal check back then, get done by a HP Grasp. Oh, that shit was fucked up. But there's a reason I'm talking about Dark Evian in a video about Conkeldurr. Because when the Dragon Spiral Tyrants clashed with the Circus Maximus Tigers in Week 5 of SPL 14 2023, we got an early glimpse of how Conkeldurr would be supported in the future. It was a weird team preview. Dual Lat is not common whatsoever. The fact both players have it makes things insanely weird to begin with. However, Evian's team has a more offensive flavour compared to Crucify's sturdier Sand Balance team. Cloyster looks immediately threatening. Once Magnezone gets chipped, it has potential to outright sweep if it can find a Shell Smash somewhere. Most importantly, this is where we see the pairing of Conkeldurr alongside, well, spoiler alert I suppose, Healing Wish Jirachi and Healing Wish Latias, a vision of things to come. This game actually took place before I had Smogon or even played Black and White OU, but from speaking to people around at the time, the classic Evian omission of Stealth Rocks and the fact this game ended in a Cloyster sweep potentially overshadowed the clever application of Conkeldurr versus his team style. Nonetheless, let's take a peep. So, Evian leads off with Cloyster, could be bluffing Sash. Crucify is definitely aware that Healing Wish is in the back, so simply Draco in the Cloyster could cost him his Latios, and Cloyster could come back later via Healing Wish, so both players do a smart mid-ground. Evian pivots off Rachi into zone, but the trap fails as Crucify's Pharaoh's Shed Shell. Crucify commits the crime of getting Stealth Rocks in a meta where Cloyster exists, so now that arsehole has entered the field. Zone's forced to come in and it gets crit twice, what a cool mon. Skip ahead a little after some interactions with Latias, Crucify gets unfortunate and brings Cloyster back in, so it's a super awkward position. Hippo goes down as Crucify simply cannot risk letting the Shell Smash go off here. Magnezone comes in to revenge kill, but Latios can come in just fine. Latios smokes Magnezone with a Draco, Crucify goes to Ferrothorn next, allowing Conkeldurr to enter the field. Drain Punch one hit KOs the Excadrill fodder and Latios comes in looking to revenge. However, it ends up eating 87% from payback. Now, we see what is a very common sight, Jirachi passing a healing wish to Conkeldurr. Now it is entered in on Pharaoh once again, forcing Laias to come in on a bulk up and eat a payback as it gets ruled out. Then we skip into the game, a few more turns, Cloyster catches a healing wish and that about wraps things up and Dark Evian gets the win. Little bit of modern history on your screen just then. It goes without saying people have tried so many different things in the years that Gen 5 has existed. Perhaps in the earlier days some random ladder hero used healing wish with Conkeldurr, we'll never know. But what we do know is that Dark Evian loaded the modern specially defensive Conk with healing wish support to take a win on the biggest stage of them all. And that's why I'll forever associate him with the beginning of this revolution. Appreciate you all for tuning in and watching the video. Making this video took quite a bit of effort. I'm a really illiterate person when it comes to technology. 2 years ago I didn't even know Control-C, Control-V existed. But yeah, it was nice to learn a new skill in editing. Although it may look like it was put together by a blind 5-year-old with no hands, I hope that you learned something. Have a good day, people.